I'll be honest, when it comes to boxing and body shots, never ever got hurt from one. I did all the stomach conditioning, the hard sparring, the fitness work. And honestly, punches never really hurt me much. In all honesty, it hurt more the next day, if anything. But I'll tell you, the shots that changed fights, the precision shots, the sneaky shots, the ones that slip through your guard, the ones you don't see coming, the ones that don't hurt, but they sneak through and they take your legs from underneath you. And I'm not too proud to admit this, but I've been stopped before in boxing, and not because I was hurt, because my legs were gone. And for me personally, I was up against it because I had another problem. My eyesight was up to shit. Terrible vision my whole life. To be honest, I should never have earned at least a glove. I remember when I started boxing at 26, I was a supervisor in a warehouse, and I went off to a boxing gym one arvo because a bunch of boys I worked with said, "Hey boss, come and have a go at boxing with us." Anyway, I was the only one that stayed, stuck to the boxing and fell in love with it. But I remember my whole family saying, "What are you doing? Don't go into boxing, you can't see." I remember saying this, "I only need to see this far, that's it. They get that close, I'm going to whack them." But in all honesty, I've never been one to let limitations stop me from having a go in life. So I got into boxing anyway. And honestly, I became a super trainer. I love training. I knew my eyesight wasn't great, so mentally I tried to make up for it somewhere else with fitness. And you know, I remember I was 26 years old, so on paper I should never have started boxing. I started amateur boxing at 26. I was a married man. I was going to work. I was a supervisor. I had kids at home, you know. I had no reason to be getting into a boxing gym at 26, starting amateur boxing, having 8 amateur fights in the first year, turning pro in the same year. I had no business being there. But hey, just back yourself. If you got a gut feeling and you want to have a go at something, just do it. Don't die wondering. Just have a go. And for me, training was never a problem. I loved it. I loved running. I loved skipping, sparring, everything. I loved it all. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, no matter what you do. If you're doing it for the right reasons, you know, you don't have too much pressure on yourself. I had no pressure on myself. I wasn't expected to achieve anything. So, you know, every fight I won was a bonus, I guess. I just backed myself and I got into it and I enjoyed it. And you know, in the gym, where blokes that take shortcuts, I went the other way because I knew I was already behind with the eyesight. So I was always that guy pushing harder quietly, just putting in the extra work. You know, when I was skipping and jumping the rope, you know, on the rounds, and the guys would be stopping next to me doing up their shoelaces all the time. You know, that's an old trick in boxing when you're lazy. Stop and do up your laces mid-round when you're skipping. I never did this. I wanted to know before every fight that no one trained harder than me. I wanted fitness to become my confidence, and it did. Honestly, that mindset, it carried me a long way in boxing, further than anyone would have ever expected, probably including myself, to be honest. But once you get to the higher levels, those blokes are precise, they don't miss. When your vision isn't perfect, those little shots become a problem. You can't see them, they slip in. I did have good timing and reflexes, and I put that down in my training. You know, I did everything, left no stone unturned, but, you know, when you got to that level, you just couldn't get out of the way quick enough from those punches if you couldn't see them clearly, you know, and that's what happened with me. And a lot of people outside of boxing don't understand. It's not always the hardest punches that change a fight. I've seen big, powerful, telegraphed punches do nothing. And then I've seen little sneaky, soft, precise shots do plenty. I had it with Daniel Gill. I didn't think he was a big puncher, you know, but one little punch slips through that hits you, smack bang right on the chin, your legs just go from under you. And that's what happened with me. And that's why experienced fighters respect precision, not ego, not wild aggression, precision. The timing, the accuracy, the precision you don't see. And I know this firsthand. Once fighters reach a certain level, mistakes become costly. If your reaction is half a second late, that can be enough. That can be too late. That's fighting. But honestly, boxing humbles everyone eventually. And despite my eyesight, I still achieve things I'm proud of. I beat an undefeated professional fighter who was also a world amateur silver medalist. I had 8 amateur fights at 26, turned pro at 26, the same year I started, for the Australian light middleweight title. And honestly, that means a lot to me. Not because I was some naturally gifted fighter, because I wasn't. But I never let limitations decide what I could attempt in life. And honestly, I knew I was never going to win a world title. I was realistic enough to know that. But hey, I do still have broken rights. I become a national champion in one weight division and an Asia Pacific champ in another weight division. And when I look back now, I'm very proud of that. Because I didn't do it through natural talent. I was basically Stevie Wonder with boxing gloves on. I did it through preparation, fitness and discipline, and refusing to never mentally quit. And honestly, I believe there's a lesson inside that outside of boxing too. You don't always have to become the best in the world to prove something to yourself. Sometimes the real achievement is becoming more than what people expected, including yourself. And looking back now, the shots I respected the most were never really the hardest punches. It was the precise shots, the sneaky punches, the ones you didn't fully see, because those are the ones that can suddenly remind you how fast your legs can disappear. If you enjoy these real boxing talks and life lessons, check out the playlist in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for watching, guys.